Hey friend, I know you're here for one reason. You're ready to optimize your tools, time, and talents to create a money-making opportunity from home. Now, if that's you, then you're in the right place. I'm Jacqueline, your host, and I started my own virtual assistant business while homeschooling my 4 children. I know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't have to make you crazy. I'm here to teach you my secrets and strategies so that you can start your own freelance or virtual assistant business. So let's get ready to optimize to scale. Hey guys, welcome back to the Optimize to Scale podcast. Today I have with us Anne, and she is going to share with us some incredible wisdom from years of being an online service provider. So Anne, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure. I'm so excited. So why don't you go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Anne, and I live in Fargo, North Dakota. I'm married, so I have a husband, and I have been doing virtual assistants now for about 4 years. I got started working. Initially, I wanted to work with photographers, and I started joining Facebook groups and realized that there was a need for virtual assistant people to be doing things behind the scenes, like photo editing or admin stuff. So I kind of got into the virtual assistant world that way, just kind of learning more about the industry. And then now I have a group of women that I kind of walk with to virtual assistants as well. I'm in there every once in a while giving tips or whatever to them. And yeah, so I really enjoy the virtual world. I really enjoy like the flexibility it gives me. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. I don't know. Was there anything else specific you wanted to know?
That's awesome. Thank you. That kind of gives us like a perspective on how you really started. Well, let me clarify. So you actually did help the photographers as their virtual assistant. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep. I started helping photographers, and I also now actually have my own side of my business where I do photography as well. So I do wedding photography along with the virtual assistant stuff.
Okay, cool. That's really cool. So how would you describe your very first client as a virtual assistant? How did you get them? How did that process go? And what did you learn from it? Maybe how can you share, for those who are starting out that are just wondering how it really happens? Can you share your experience?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I started joining a bunch of Facebook groups because I was interested in photography. So I think I literally just typed in like photography Facebook groups and like joined all of them to start learning. And I didn't really know a whole lot about the industry or how it worked or anything about it when I first got started. So I started by just reading posts, learning more about like the different equipment they use, the different programs they use. I learned through that they used a lot of Photoshop and another like photo editing software along with that. And so I was like, cool, I'll start there. I'll learn these programs because they seem like pretty much everybody uses them. They're pretty standard in the industry. So I went onto YouTube and I YouTubed a bunch of tutorials on how to do things. And in those Facebook groups that I was in, I started seeing requests for like different projects, like editing projects. And people would just post in the group and I would comment on the post and ask them if I could help them out. The first couple I think I did for free. They were just like small little projects. And then I just started charging after that and just kind of building up knowledge. Some of the things I didn't know how to do right away. So I had to like research them as well before and make sure that I like could figure it out before I volunteered to do it. It was kind of a big learning curve of learning how to do the thing and then commenting on the different posts. And through like engaging with them as well, I realized that there was also a need for like more administrative type work and like social media type work. And so through building like relationships through the different people that I was working with for small little editing projects, started to get my foot in the door that way. And people started seeing my name in the Facebook groups and started referring me to other people to be able to get more like social media work and administrative work. Did a lot of like setting up for like CRMs and stuff for people as well during that time. So it was just kind of a learning curve of learning what programs that the industry use And then from there, once I felt comfortable with that, I was able to like get into the Facebook groups and connect with people by commenting on their posts and ultimately getting into their messages with them and having a conversation, and then ultimately getting on a phone call with them and then having them work with me. So that was kind of my process of how I did it.
That's really cool. So, what would you say about doing work for free? What are some pros and cons there? Or what would you caution people with how to do that well?
Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. The reason that I was just started off for free was because I was doing photo edits that ultimately otherwise cost like $5. Very cheap work, but like I know a lot of people will say we'll do so many hours for free or whatever, which can ultimately end up with like hundreds of dollars in that way. So I would caution against that because ultimately it's not really getting you anywhere. And the people that want the work for free are typically not your ideal clients, anyways. And if you're doing work for free, then you're not really building up any sort of reputation that way. You can, yes, get testimonials, but oftentimes the people that want it for free are not the established businesses that you actually want the testimonials from. So it can actually hurt you in some ways of like, you're putting in all this effort, you get this like testimonial, and it's not really an established business. It's somebody who's just getting started, and people like go to look at that testimonial or look the person up and they can't really find anything because that person is just kind of getting started. But I will say, if you're like volunteering for a nonprofit, that is a little bit different. So like volunteer work is great. And we all should be volunteering, especially like as Christians, it's good to volunteer. So volunteering for a nonprofit to get experience, I think is perfectly fine. But if you're like looking for work specifically to get testimonials or like whatever for like people in Facebook groups, I don't think that's the best way to go about it, because oftentimes they're going to be those people that aren't going to give you a very good testimonial or don't really have any sort of reputation in your industry yet. So oftentimes the people that like will pay you or like want to pay you and expect like not expect more out of you, but
Yeah,
I also feel like the people that want free work expect a lot from you.
right.
And boundaries get pushed a lot, and so it's not really the best way.
Yeah. How did you make it work so that you weren't, I guess, taken advantage of? What were, like, practically speaking, because you did it and it seemed like it worked really well for you. Is there anything in particular you did? Did you just set a cap, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I told them that the first photo edit was free. Like one photo edit would be at $10 at most. So it wasn't like a huge commitment. It was like the first photo edit is free, basically, so you can see that I know what I'm talking about and I know how to do it. And that was because I didn't really have any sort of portfolio or anything. I didn't have a camera to be able to take my own pictures to be able to edit. But if it was anything else, like for my CRM work or like setting up, say, Dubsado, I never did it for free. I always charged at least something for it. Even if I wasn't totally confident in it, I knew that I had the resources and the ability to be able to look up things and to be able to make things work. So it was like a reduced rate, but it wasn't free.
Okay, I like that. So either, make it very clear the first one or whatever is free and then the rest you charge, or reduce the rate to build your confidence and then charge normal rates moving forward. That's really cool. So you were doing photography, or you went straight to photographers. Is there a reason for that, or that you went to support photographers, or was it just because you're into photography, so you happen to support photographers? How did that work out?
Yeah, so I wanted to be like my initial goal for getting in those Facebook groups was to become a photographer myself, because I really enjoyed the thought behind that. And I really enjoyed like the industry and learning about it. And I like to be creative. I like art, and photography, like even with my cell phone before I had a nice camera, was like a nice way to express myself because I wasn't really good at drawing or painting or anything. So I kind of like wanted to get into that industry more so for myself and learning about how to be a better photographer for myself, but then kind of fell into working with other people in the process of that, and found that I actually really enjoyed being able to support other people as well.
That's awesome. Do you feel like it actually made you a better photographer supporting photographers too? Because you probably learned a lot behind the scenes, right? I imagine.
Oh, definitely. Yep. So I like learn different people's processes, because like everybody's business is different, right? And so like you're in somebody's business and you're learning all about their different systems and their different processes and ways of doing things, so that it makes like your business even better, because you take all of the things that you like from everybody else's business and kind of put them together into your own.
Yeah, I love it. So, something that's a lot of newer freelancers and virtual assistants are always asking, when they get started, because the whole point is to make money, right? So, the first thing people want to know is, how do I find clients? Where do I find clients? And one of the things that I'm hearing that's a big buzz right now is niche down. When you niche
Mhm.
down, you find clients. What are your thoughts about that? And how does someone niche down?
Mhm.
Or describe how that looks like for you, or what you would suggest for newer people.
Yep, for sure. So the reason why we talk about like picking a niche is because there are so many people in the virtual assistant world and so many people that want to be like helping businesses do things, that the market is kind of oversaturated. It's like a big pool of people all trying to go to the same person. So if you're like a business owner and you want to hire an assistant, you're going to want to like, you'll put out your ad and you'll get all of these applicants in, but you're going to want the person that is like the most qualified for the job, but also is like the most knowledgeable in that area. If I even want to hire an administrative person as a photographer, I would most likely go for people who already have some knowledge about the industry. So if there's like general virtual assistants that are applying that like serve any industry, they're not going to be as appealing to me as like say somebody who works specifically with photographers, knows the industry, has other photographer clients. That tells me that like they know what they're talking about. And even if they don't have other photographer clients, if I can see like on their Facebook page, like the things that they're knowledgeable about in the photography industry. So they're talking about like the CRMs that I'm using. They're talking about Lightroom or Photoshop. Like if I can see that they have the knowledge of that, or like at least they're trying to have the knowledge of that, they're going to be a lot more appealing to me than somebody who's posting about other programs that I don't know or don't care about. Um,
Right.
so I want to make sure that I'm picking that specific person that's like more appealing to me. So that's why we talk about like niching down and making sure that we're picking that specific place that we like find most comfortable or most interesting. So I guess my like top tips for doing that would be to like looking at yourself. Where are your gifts and where are your talents? What has God given you that you want to be able to share with somebody else? Whether that's like being creative, if you like drawing or painting, maybe you're more called to like work with artists, or you like photography, you like the like creative aspect behind photography, or you like medical stuff like data or whatever other things in that area. So it's just kind of like looking at yourself, kind of determining like what are my like gifts and talents and my interests. Like if you don't like making graphics for social media, then don't make graphics for social media. Focus your time on like coming up with the strategies of setting up like CRMs and stuff.
That makes perfect sense. So, work with the tools that you have in yourself that you were given by God, but also what you have available to you, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like is what I'm hearing. See, and I think though, when a lot of people are new to virtual assisting, they're like, they just don't know where to start, And I love that you
Mm-hmm.
said, just think about the talents that you have or what you're interested in. But it is hard if you're
Mm-hmm.
used to more of the brick and mortar world, and you come
Mm-hmm.
into the online space and you're just like, I don't know, I'm a former teacher, or I'm a former, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, there is no context of, okay, I'll just start with this group of people?
Yeah. And even like with a teacher example, like you can kind of think outside of the box and know that the world and the online world is super vast, and like there's businesses for literally everything. And like there are people online that have businesses that specifically serve like teachers or homeschool moms. So like thinking about those different areas and then doing like Google searches or Facebook group searches to find the different like types of groups of people that serve those specific areas as well. So even if you're like not specifically teaching, you have knowledge in that area to be able to serve somebody else who's might be teaching themselves or might be serving teachers themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, as we're wrapping up, I want to ask you, like, the beauty of working for yourself and freelancing is that each day doesn't have to look the same, but on average, How does your typical day look like? How do you manage it all, life and the business?
hmm Yeah, so I find it really good to set aside time that you're specifically working on your business. So whether that's time blocking off by like hour for the different tasks you're going to do, or like planning out your day, like depending upon the type of person you are, some people have like 10-minute increments for every day. Some people block out by hour. So finding the system that works for you. For me, I like to work by hour and just planning out. So, okay, for this hour, I'm going to be photo editing. For this hour, I'm going to be doing whatever work on my business, like social media or whatever needs to be done there. For this hour, I'm going to be eating lunch. And then making sure that you're setting appropriate boundaries so that you have a start time in the morning and a stop time at night. And then also making sure if you don't want to work on weekends, you don't work on weekends. So part of the beauty of being your own boss is that you can set your own hours and you don't have to work outside of those hours. So making sure that
Yes.
you're setting those boundaries early on, I think is super, super important, because if you don't have them, it's very easy to move them aside. And especially if you're allowing clients to contact you at like midnight and you're responding at midnight, clients are going to keep doing that. So making sure you set those boundaries early on is super important.
Yes, that is really good. Because I know starting out, it can be tempting to say, whatever it takes to just get a client. But then, like you said, once you start letting them do that, it'll continue and then you burn out and all these other
Yep.
things. So that is really, really good advice. And before I let you go, I want to ask you a quick, lighthearted, to get to know you question a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a would you rather question. Are
Okay.
you ready?
Yeah.
Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Oh, wow. I think I would say that I'd rather be able to speak every language in the world, just
And why?
because then I would be able to connect with like all of the humans everywhere. And everybody has such a unique story. And just getting to know their story specifically in their own native language and being able to
Mm,
communicate without barriers, I think would be
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, like obviously communicating with animals would be fun and interesting to know what they're thinking, but I believe that humans have like a much greater depth than animals, and getting to know them and their story would be much more fascinating to me.
Yes, I agree. I would have picked the same thing. Well, Anne, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an honor, and you're just such a bright spot in Facebook land. I always love being in your group and just getting encouragement from you. Speaking of your group, can you tell everybody where we can find you online?
Yep. So the best place to get a hold of me would be my Facebook group. So if you just type in Christian Woman Virtual Assistants into the search bar and search group for groups, it should be the first one that pops up.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne. Is there anything else you want to share with the newer VAs and freelancers before we go?
I think the last thing that I would like to share is just to keep pressing on, especially as you're entering into a business. It takes time and it takes perseverance. It takes dedication, but it can be fun and you can enjoy it while you're doing it. So even if you don't get a client right away, to just keep trying, keep applying for jobs, and eventually you will be able to land a client.
Oh, I love it. Those are some words of wisdom right there. All right, guys. So that's it for today. I hope that you got something of value from today's episode. And if you did, make sure you leave a review or subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next episode. And also go find Anne in the Christian Woman Virtual Assistant Support Group. And I will also put a link to her group in the show notes. And until next time, I hope that you are overwhelmed by unexpected kindness shown to you today.